In our lead this hour, coming from the Charm City, and that was the site for the final game on Sunday that wrapped up the card. We still have the Monday night game to go, but as far as the weekend activity, the Steelers roadshow caravanning their way, 250 miles or so from Pittsburgh to Baltimore, a rivalry for the ages. Just ask Chris Collinsworth, and he'll tell you on television. Now, I don't know if you saw this or not. Maybe we were still hungover from the New Year's Eve celebration and the extended party. Perhaps you missed it, but do not worry. All right, we watched it, so you would not have to. And Baltimore leading most of this game, but then late, Kenny Pickett connecting with Najee Harris on a 10-yard pass play, short pass, run into the end zone with about a minute to go. And the Steelers, hold on. There was no game-tying kick by Justin Tucker to force the game into overtime. The Steelers making some plays on defense in the final seconds, and they beat the Ravens 16-13, and they keep the dream alive for the playoffs. Pittsburgh improving to 8-8. Baltimore dropping to 10-6 on the season as they played again without Lamar Jackson, who has been persona non grata in Baltimore. Some going as far as to say he's milking the injury because of his contractual situation. More on that later, but let us discuss the question. Who takes the blame for the Ravens blowing a lead early in the third quarter that was at 10 points in a defensive struggle? So I've got VIP, Salisbury steak, and trucking. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make some pathetic, I was waiting for the bell. Some pathetic seafood right out of the harbor there in Baltimore. So, I wonder what happened to the bell. I thought maybe we retired the bell. It's 2023 now. I thought maybe the bell went. No, the bell's still there. We still have the bell. Bells of hell. All right, so plenty of culpability on the Baltimore side, but the most important position, we're told about this all the time, is the quarterback position. And so I have the arrow pointing at Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback there, as he got out of the gates fast, Huntley, in the first half. By his standards, he was 7 of 9 passing, had a touchdown in the first half. Not a lot of yards, but a passer rating of over 120. Not great, but good enough. He converted, the Ravens did as a team, most of it on the ground, but they converted on 50% of their third downs. And so the Poets were leading 10-3 at the midway point as they stopped and had orange slices and had some juice. And then the backup quarterback for the Ravens was completely hornswoggled in the second half as he had a VIP ticket on the Vomit Comet in the second half. Huntley 7 of 12 in the second half, no touchdowns. The Ravens did not get in the end zone in the second half. Hard to have a touchdown pass and 1 interception. It works out to a passer rating of below 50, but that only tells you part of the story, not the whole story. If you saw the game, you know, and if you're a Baltimore aficionado, in the fourth quarter in particular, that is where the level of stinkage rose up, and away! A 3 of 8 passing for the backup quarterback there in Baltimore in the fourth quarter, 27 yards and a 7.8 passer rating. That is how you crap your pants right there in the fourth quarter. And keep in mind, though, the Ravens running this rudimentary passing attack. And I get that this is the backup, Tyler Huntley, and since he's the backup, he gets a pass. But excuse my French here. As Jay Scoop likes to say, that is bullpucky, right? This is a professional ball player. It was a golden opportunity in prime time to make a couple of plays. That performance was worthy of a dunce cap down the stretch. The reigning defensive player of the year, T.J. Watt, he had him spooked a little bit, right? Huntley, he was overthrowing, underthrowing receivers, didn't even attempt that many throws. Now, that only works, that style of play, when you are playing the really terrible teams. And the Steelers are not a terrible team. They're an average team. They're not a good team. They're an average team. They're in the middle. All right, now, page 2. What about the Baltimore defense? What happened to the Ravens defense? And as much as we've goofed on Huntley, the backup quarterback, the Baltimore defense has no mea culpa in this game with Lamar Jackson out, seemingly not coming back anytime soon to the lineup. He's out for the long haul here. That means the fallback, I don't think I'm wrong in saying this, the fallback, the meat and potatoes of the Ravens, is the defense, right? That's the defense. In the second half and down the stretch, they were rotten, right? Meat and potatoes. It was a Salisbury steak and lumpy mashed potatoes with flies hovering overhead. The defensive line was shoved around. There's no other way to say it, right? You can give the kid glove treatment if you want. The Steelers were the more physical team. They ran right down the throat of the defense in Baltimore and did whatever they wanted. They had 198 yards on the ground on 41 carries. That's almost 5 yards per carry against what is supposed to be a top-notch Ravens defense. And as a result, Baltimore, you combine the defense with the dereliction of duties at the quarterback position down the stretch, unable to protect a 10-point third-quarter lead, and just make a couple of plays. Just a couple of plays with the game on the line, nursing the lead, didn't do that. And the rookie quarterback, he's a rookie, although they've played pretty much all year at this point, Kenny Pickett, again, with a he-man performance late in the game. I'll be the guardian angel. 7 of 12 passing for 100 yards and a touchdown in the fourth quarter of this game. Most of that coming at the very end there. Second consecutive week now that Pickett has played hero ball in a primetime game. Last week it was against the Raiders in what turned out to be the final game for Derek Carr as a Raider. But in that game, Pickett, remember, he had a 10-play, 76-yard drive, paving the way, and he capped that one off to George Pickens' game-winning touchdown. And then on Sunday here, an 11-play, 80-yard drive on the road, moving mountains, and the eventual game winner there with just about a minute to go in the game. And so we will see what happens next season, because while Pickett has been pretty good at the end of these games, he has not been overall great throughout the games. And you want to see the progression, because it's a little bit of a smoke and mirror situation here at the end of the games, because if you don't play well for the first 75% of the games and you play well at the end, that's great, but it'd be a lot easier. You wouldn't have to come back with 10-plus play drives for 75-plus yards if you make a few more plays in the first and the second and the third quarter. But you already knew that. You already knew that. All right, last word here. So what is the lesson from the Steelers remaining alive, staying alive for a playoff spot heading into Week 18, the final week of the regular season? So it's a teachable moment for those that are addicted to the NFL draft. Screw you. Perseverance pays off. Now, even if Pittsburgh comes up short here and they fail to make the postseason, and they still have to have a lot of things break their way, it doesn't matter. They showed moxie here. That's a good job. And I've always not a Steeler fan. I'm not a lapdog for the Steelers, but that's a team that does not give up, and I appreciate that. In a world where everyone and their uncle give up, right? We'll just play for draft picks. We'll play for that. It would have been very easy to toss in the sponge. Mike Tomlin's team at one point required oxygen. And we're going back many, many weeks, couple of months, but Pittsburgh was sitting at 2-6 heading into the Week 9 bye. PU, what stinks? That would be the Steelers. And you remember the conversation, the talking heads, the recommendation was tank, tastic, tank the season. Get a higher draft pick, hit the reset button, blah, 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 blah. And what did the Steelers do? They said, I realize this is a Hail Mary situation. But they rejected the idea that they would throw games and try to get a higher draft pick. And they kept on trucking, and you keep on trucking down the road there. And now there is a path to playoff salvation. Since the 2-6 start, the Steelers are 6-2. My computer-like brain tells me that is 8-8. They are one of 8 teams in the NFL that are 8-8. Overall, there are 13 of the 32 teams that have either 7 or 8 wins heading into the final week of the regular season. That is a 40% mediocrity index, which is just what the NFL scriptwriters want. They want everyone around 7, 8, 9 wins. That's what they want. They want everyone kind of in the middle there. It's like that big thing out in the Pacific with all the trash circling around in the middle of the Pacific. That's what the NFL wants. They want a lot of trash going in a vortex in the middle of the ocean. But here's how the Steelers can get in the playoffs. Now, they got to win. If they don't win, forget about it. They play the pervert, the Browns quarterback there, the creepy quarterback, who I understand LeBron James likes a lot. How about that? There's a surprise. I thought LeBron was for truth, justice, and the American way. No. He's cuddling up with the creepy quarterback. Anyway, the Steelers have to beat the Browns, but they then have to have the Bills take down the Patriots. But that's not all. Then they have to have the anemic Jets beat the Dolphins, who we think will be on their third-string quarterback in that game. But you question the motivation of the Jets, as they will not be going to the playoffs. The Bills, the perfect scenario here is, depending on what happens in the Monday night game for the Bengals and the Bills, and then if Cincinnati were to win that game, Kansas City were to lose their game, there's a scenario where the Bills do not gain anything and could likely stand down and rest a bunch of starters for the playoffs and all that nonsense. And so that would clear the path for the Patriots to win the game. So it's an interesting couple of days here to end the year, Saturday and Sunday of next week. We've got to get to that point here, but there is a path to sneak in to the playoffs. All right, now, meanwhile, let's hear from inside the locker room, a little post-game flavor, and we'll start with the Ravens, who blew a 10-point lead in the second half, and John Harbaugh. Tough weekend for the Harbaughs. Jim Harbaugh takes it in the shorts there against the TCU in the college football playoff. John Harbaugh's team blowing the lead here, and he points out that the offense had a few issues from beginning to end in this one.
We didn't do a great job of finding a way to make plays. We had a few here and there, but we were behind the change too much. They were ahead of the change pretty much the whole game.
See, it's all about the chain gang. Got to stay on top of the chain gang. All right, here's one more from John Harbaugh, who points out this was not an oil painting for the Baltimore Ravens.
Not one of our better performances at all. Coaching staff, start with that, start with me, start with the coaching staff, game plan, all of it, not good enough. Very disappointing. We got to bounce back.
I'll bet you dollars to donuts that's not what John Harbaugh said to his team in the locker room, that it starts with the coaching. I'm gonna go out on a limb that he did not say that. Now, the other coach, Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers, always an interesting soundbite. Here's Mike Tomlin pointing out that the Steelers, they knew what they had with their quarterback.
I just think that we benefited so much from close proximity in the evaluation process. I don't think none of us are surprised by what he does from an intangible standpoint. And the proximity to him at Pitt really kind of gave us that comfort.
It's all about proximity. It's all about location for Kenny Pickett and the Steelers.